Welcome to the Circle City News with your host, Kayla Mettert. Subscribe now and let's keep Indy informed together.
Hello and welcome back to Circle City News. I'm your new host, Kayla Mettert, and with me today is my guest and sponsor, Mark Nicholson.
Hello.
So Mark, today our first topic is going to be on the Indiana age verification bill that prevents Indiana users from accessing adult entertainment websites without first verifying your age. You wrote an article on this, and I'm sure that myself and our viewers would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I've written a couple of articles in regards to this, what I call it the Age Gate Law. And you can go to my website, the Law Office of Mark Nicholson, or you can go to the NicholsonNugget.com and it'll take you to the blog. But anyway, basically, this case is being litigated in like Texas and also Indiana regarding age verification. And part of the problem that people in the adult entertainment industry have with it, and me also as someone that is a strong advocate for the First Amendment and also for freedom, civil rights, that you have a situation where people are going to have to put in their information over the internet when, how people get stuff all the time over the internet. And then you're doing it on maybe a site that may be kind of shady.
Exactly.
And now they have all this information and they can dox you and blackmail you. It just is not necessarily the safest way of going about trying to prevent people from accessing adult entertainment. Now, obviously, I'm not for, and Kayla, I know we just met recently, I don't think you're for the promotion of children looking at adult entertainment.
Of course not.
Yeah, right. So there are other ways to go about it. There's software that can block these type of websites if parents are concerned. Don't get me wrong, people can try to still work around the blocks that are put up and things like that. You can monitor your kids' activity, and with saying, okay, having it linked to your family account is another way to go about it. But for adults and the government putting in this restriction, it just seems like it's an overreach. It's overly broad, because now you have a situation where last night I was on Twitter and I just typed in the word porn, and then boom, all this stuff comes up on Twitter. Twitter doesn't have age verification. Reddit.
Exactly.
Yeah, Reddit is another one. I went on there. I was just doing some testing, researching, and same thing. And those don't have it. So it seems like they're only really going after some of the big ones. Like, one of them was like
Mainstream.
Pornhub.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was going to mention that. Pornhub, if you go there now, you get a notification or a message across your screen just saying that they don't actually have a way to maintain age verification. And so until they can, they're just going to limit users from Indiana and Texas. And that's interesting to me because there's obviously going to be ways around that, as you mentioned.
Right.
I obviously don't believe that it's okay that minors try to access these sites, and we shouldn't be promoting towards it. But I also feel that it's necessary for adults to be able to access this, both physically and mentally. I don't know if you know this, but release or reaching orgasm has good benefits for your health. Like, it boosts fertility, it helps with headaches, what was another one? It boosts your immune system. So, and a lot of people, there's a very large number of people actually who rely on visual stimulation to get them that release. So, I think that there should be different ways for us to, access these websites without having to verify our age every time. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. Yes, I am. I may not look like it, but I am aware of the benefits of an orgasm. And the health benefits. So I just for the record to show. Yep. But one of the thing that is just interesting to me is this kind of attack on what people do in the privacy of their own home. I always think that, and I'm wearing this shirt, that's a horrible idea.
It's horrible.
The bottom part says, what time is it? Meaning, hey, I'm in for this horrible idea. But I'm just stopping at the very first part that's written in white that says that's a horrible idea. is I think this is a horrible idea because what it does is sometimes push people to do things that are illegal.
Yes.
Not all the time, but I'm just saying. For example, what I'm saying is, I've been an attorney for a while, and I remember there was a Backpage. It was called Backpage.com, and a lot of sex workers were on Backpage. And the police were just like shooting fish in a barrel. They were going Backpage, and they were doing all these busts. Even had children that were being trafficked on Backpage.
Oh my goodness.
The good thing about Backpage, now there may be some bad things as well, and they were prosecuted and stuff, but you knew where to go. That it gave law enforcement a place to go to bust the people instead of driving them further underground to where now you may not even know where they're at, right? So same thing with it, and I haven't run the numbers, but most people, when you think of porn on the internet, Pornhub, it just seems like that is the biggest one out there. I don't know that to be true, but it just, that name rings a lot, and so I am sure that if anybody has the ability to have funding to put things in place to protect minors and to protect adults from being trafficked and things like that. And I'm not saying they're not bad actors, that you could probably put in some kind of secret code word and get access to things that, whatever. But I'm saying they have the financial resources to stop that kind of stuff and to work with law enforcement to prevent or at least catch a predator in that sense. And when you start funneling people down to these more shadier websites and underground, it makes it harder and harder to catch them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think of OnlyFans and the criteria that OnlyFans has and all the money that they've generated. It's going to be a lot harder for someone to get on OnlyFans and do some illegal stuff. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because, I mean, for that matter, Facebook. People have got on Facebook and, done certain things that shouldn't have, drug operations, child porn, whatever. But because you can use almost any of these tools for bad purposes.
Exactly.
But I think it's key that for consenting adults, that avenue for them to, like what you said, and I really appreciate you recognizing, and I know I'm going to generalize a little bit and say mainly it's men. Men are generally visual creatures, where women are more, they think more, listen, and they're just a little bit more thinkers. And I'm just saying that generally speaking, not trying to say it's always the case. But when you look at the numbers about some of the biggest consumers of adult entertainment, it's men. You don't see a lot of male strip clubs.
That is true. That's very true.
Yeah. So it's men, and it's good to know that someone, especially as a female, can that can recognize the benefits of someone in the privacy of their own home looking at consenting adult material and enjoying themselves and not hurting anyone, and maybe even preventing them from going acting out on it. So
exactly.
I know I've done a lot of talking, so
no, that is okay, and I can't agree with that more. I mean, I feel, as you said, if it's harder to access, people are going to find more ways, even being illegal, to access that. So I think there should be other ways found that can help, verify your age, but without limiting your access to the site.
Right, and we have a situation where, the lawsuit that's in federal court here in Indiana, and then there was an injunction in place, and the district court went ahead and sent it back and removed the injunction. I mean, this case may ultimately wind up in the United States Supreme Court, and put it under the strict scrutiny test to find out if this really is the most restrictive, the least restrictive, way possible to access, adults to be able to get their First Amendment on, because this is a matter of First Amendment. And then kind of like, where do you draw the line? Is it really just the sites that we don't like, or is it something that's like, well, they have this stuff on Twitter. They have it on Reddit. Now I know that the law put in some kind of little calculation or statistic thing that says if the primary purpose or whatever. I'm not going to get too deep into the law. I think it's a bad law, and hopefully it gets overturned.
Right.
But the idea that if you're really trying to protect kids, then why just protect them on this site here when there's these other sites that's showing the same, basically taking stuff from those sites and republishing it on these other sites, and it's just like, but they don't have to verify their age there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was quite a few mainstream sites, at least a handful so far, that have already limited access to users, but there are still so many that are still popular, just less talked about, that you can still access here. And there's absolutely, like you mentioned, content on there that has been moved from Pornhub or wherever to these smaller sites.
Right. And it's also an interesting thing is sometimes that people that are up in arms about it are some of the biggest consumers of it.
Yes.
And if you don't want to go there, don't go there. And I get kids are curious, and they will sit up there. I mean, you can do name something, whatever it is, in Google, and then hit images or video, and then that stuff will pop up that's adult related. You know what I'm saying? Even though you're not on a specific website.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just do it because I was doing research on it was a case I had involving Backpage, and I went ahead and I just did a Google search for black penises images.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, didn't go to any specific website, anything like that, and boom, here it is. And the reason why I did that, give you a little background, is because the officer claimed that she could recognize my client's penis, and then I just created a 6-pack of penises and showed it to her like you would see a lineup of like somebody's face. Yes, and could she identify? And she could not, because she was lying.
Exactly.
About it. But once again, I didn't go to any specific adult website. I just did a Google search, boom,
Mm-hmm.
and then all these images came up. So
It's just easy to access, which makes me believe that we should be limiting our access to this kind of internet and technology to younger children, to minors. Because, I mean, I have a sister, and she's 8 years old, and she has so many forms of electronics. Tablet, phone, Xbox, what is that called? A Switch. And she
Yeah.
can access the internet on all of these. It's just too easy for our kids to have access to these things. It shouldn't be a bill. It should be under the parents to make sure their kids are being watched and not accessing these adult entertainment sites, or even going to Google and just typing in whatever they want and being able to just see anything.
yeah, that's a really good point, Kayla, because with technology, I'm of the generation where they didn't have the internet. At least it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
for civilians, and you could go outside. You could call using a landline phone. They didn't have cell phones, so that study just came out recently about the children using cell phones and being on the computers, and how it can hurt their grades, and it can cause more depression and things like that. And that's where most of this bullying comes from, right? That people get online, they're hiding behind this computer screen, and they bully someone, and sometimes they do it anonymously, and there's all kinds of things that can happen. And believe me, I'm not against technology. I'm not against the internet. I run my law firm. It uses technology. We're using technology right now. I think it's a great thing, but also it's kind of like alcohol or marijuana or something else,
Mm-hmm.
that driving a car, that you have to be careful about using this equipment, because if you're too young, you can run across something that you shouldn't. And
Exactly.
true enough, that goes back to the bill, the age gate law, basically saying, hey, you shouldn't be able to get on this website if you're not of this age. But then at the same time, if the whole point is, adult material, why does it seem to me it's sex?
Mm-hmm.
But violence,
It's
see all the
easily
violence.
accessible. It's
Yeah, exactly.
just everywhere.
Yeah,
Kids are
and
so sensitized these days. They're no longer sensitive to um, horrible violence and just anything because they can just see it on TV. They play it in video games, and that's what
right.
I mean by we should be um, blocking their access to these things. But I don't necessarily believe it should be to adult entertainment sites because that's going to put, as you mentioned in your article, owners of these websites under. They're going to bear the burden of this. Not only them, but the sex workers who perform in this adult content. In Indiana and Texas will also be put under.
Right. And you also have the issue of, someone can sue.
Mm-hmm.
Someone can sue, this way. Oh, you didn't have it up. Well, first of all, once again, like, why? Why do I want to go to this, website so I can say, oh, I'm offended. I'm going to sue them. Just don't go there. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I'm people that have went to my website know I'm African American. I don't make it my business to visit white supremacist websites. I just don't do it unless it's for some kind of work, because
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But otherwise than that, I just don't go there for leisure. And so if it's something that you're not interested in, then the idea is just don't go
Don't
there.
look at it. Don't look
And
at it.
then, yeah, but there are people out there that are just looking for a way to harass somebody or like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to shut them down and things like that. And then they're going to sue these people, these companies, if they feel like they haven't met the criteria for this particular age gate law.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about violence, there was recently a school shooting, I think last week or something like that, in Georgia or somewhere. And then they charged the father. Well, when is the last time? Not the father and the son. They charged, but when is the last time you heard of a mass orgy?
Exactly. That's
You know
not
what I'm saying?
talked about.
Yeah, it's like right. So when's all these kids they see these guns and all this violence stuff. They go out there, they shoot and kill a bunch of people, but you don't hear them all of a sudden just get out in the middle of the street. They're like, oh, look at all these kids running around naked and having sex.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
So, but yeah. So I know it's not exactly the same, but it's just the idea
I do get that
that
though. Yeah.
we sometimes put up all these barriers instead of talking about it and the like what you did in the earlier on about the benefits of orgasm, of sex, of being able to escape
Mm-hmm.
mentally, and from the other side of from that's from the male perspective. That's why I really appreciate you from saying it because we're speaking from like a male perspective, but from the female perspective, is for the ones that are providing that work. This is the way for them, and probably one of the few professions where they can regularly outperform males when it comes to money,
Yes.
and here's a way for them in the safety of their home um, to be able to, or apartment, however they want to have their place set up, to be able to earn money in a safe environment, and they are in control of what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they have no fear of somebody holding a hostage into this room and saying, you're going to do this or I'm going to punch you
Exactly.
in the face. And I mean, that's the other flip side. That's kind of a shameful part of it is like, preventing women from the ability for them to make money legally.
Exactly. And I mean, as a sex worker or who was a sex worker, it definitely is it's not great for us because this, like as you mentioned, this is a safe way for us to have an outlet and also make a source of income and help the male gaze. I mean, gaze, Gaze. um, but it's also not just for males either. Like as I mentioned about the benefits earlier, that's not just for our male listeners. A lot of women also have that struggle as well. They need visual stimulation, and so I mean, you know, uh, if we can't even provide that content, how are we supposed to help ourselves?
Right. Yeah. And I know I was generalizing when I said it. There are plenty of women, especially now that I'm speaking from generations ago where it was very, very rare, but now there are women that, are really into the visual stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
There are women that are directing this adult content. I mean, it's really, it's really changed the nature but
It
I'm not
has.
going to take away from the fact that women, and I've had clients that are shunned because they're an adult worker in adult
And you've
entertainment.
mentioned this to me before that you did. One of your clients was a woman who was shamed and lost her job because of it.
Exactly, and so that's one of the things that now if it was me and I was, people would probably be giving me, oh, high five, look, go ahead, bro. But so there's still, even though we have made some advances, women are still, I think, looked upon in a
Mm-hmm.
bad way if they go out and try to enjoy some of the same uh, uh, sexual visual stimulation or activity that men are, praised for doing.
Exactly. I mean, no one. I very. It's unlikely that someone's looked at you and asked what your body count was,
Right,
and whenever you told them, you were shunned for it. You were made fun of for it, or made to feel bad about it. Whereas
right.
women, whenever we get asked that, immediately, if it's anything over 3, you're a whore.
Yeah, exactly. If for a
But
male, if
sex
it's
is
over,
very mainstream now, so it needs to be talked about that women should be accepted in this as well as men.
yeah. And if you're a male, the flip side, if it's over 3, man, you're a stud, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and,
Like
and that's one of
when a guy tells you he has a high number and he doesn't actually, it's because he wants to seem cool, and that
yeah,
isn't something that we should be celebrating.
right.
Not saying there's anything wrong with that. However many numbers he had is fine, but don't make fun of women if you're cheering your buddies on
Yeah, the
because of
hypocrisy
this.
behind it is what you're
Yes.
referring to, and
Yeah.
yeah, and hopefully that's some of the things, Kayla, that you can um, continue to address some
Absolutely.
of the hypocrisies as you continue on with this. And I do want to say before we end
Mhm.
that I'm very, very honored to have you as the host to keep the Circle City News alive and bringing in those kind of issues of the double standard,
Mhm.
also things that are happening in the trending topics that are happening out here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and around the country. So I look forward to you continuing to do that and grow this website and the podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm really happy to have this opportunity. I never thought I would, honestly. And like I mentioned to you, I thought this opportunity would be too good to be true, but here we are, and it's amazing. So I'm very
Oh,
excited to bring up new issues. And one of my main topics is going to be about either sex or true crime, because I'm a fanatic of true crime. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
I
nice.
uh, I want let me know when you're doing the true crime one. I may have some crime stories I could tell you about too. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
Okay, we're going to
awesome.
end here. Um, to our listeners, go ahead and follow us at Circle City News on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on all of those. It was
That's right.
it was a pleasure to do this today, and I'm excited, very excited to be the new host of this podcast.
Awesome, awesome.
All right, we will see you later. Thank you.